There were different ways of carrying the muskets. When you're going through lots of trees, it's difficult having your musket up here, so the men could go to the trail arms, and it was a lot easier carrying it like that. Shoulder, arms. There was lots of other drill, but we're not going to go through it all because we'll be here all day and you might get bored with it, and quite frankly, so would they. But what we're going to do now is a short shooting display. But as I mentioned, the men would move round in lines. We're going to be firing that way, so I need to turn them around. So there were several ways of doing it. The most common way was for the men to wheel around in one long line. If you can imagine 300 men doing this, it was quite a difficult task. Doing it with 4 men, it's not quite so difficult, but it's still not easy. Squad will reel to the left. On the left, wheel. Dress. Once it moves, the men will have to dress themselves. That's not put their jackets back on, it's to make sure the line's perfectly straight again. On the left, wheel. Forward.
Little fella, thank you.
If you'd like to come to the sides, ladies and gentlemen, to say I'm going to be firing in this direction, please don't stand over here, because we don't actually want to shoot anybody. Right, so we're just going to go through the loading process. Once the soldiers had learned their drill, they had to learn how to fire these weapons. These are actually the replicas of the famous round vest, the standard weapon of the British Army. It was a smoothbore weapon. In other words, it basically was a tube. When you fired the musket ball, it would rattle down the sides and could go off in any direction. It wasn't the most accurate of weapons, which is one of the reasons why armies at the time would stand in line. If you fired volleys, you're more likely to hit something. The problem was you were more likely to be hit as well. Riflemen, such as myself, had rifles, the difference being the barrel. The barrel had a spiral cut into the groove, the bullet was nice and tight, and when you fired it, it spanned the musket ball, so instead of rattling down, it span, it went straighter, it went further. You can ask why then weren't all the men given rifles? Well, simply expense. It was very expensive to produce rifles. So these poor men were stuck with smoothbore weapons. But as I say, they were taught how to load them. First of all, they would be ordered one step at a time, and then when they were competent, they'd be able to fire in their own time. So just to show you how they actually loaded the weapons, we're going to do it under orders, one step at a time. Squad, prepare to load. Load. You bring the muskets down to the front at a slight angle. Take out cartridge. You would take a cartridge out of the cartridge box, a rolled up piece of tube, musket ball at the bottom, and then filled with gunpowder. As you can see, they then had to bite the top off, so you had to have all your own teeth. Prime. They would then pour a little bit of gunpowder in the pan next to the flint, close the frizzen. That's priming it. Out.
The children
They would then have to put the musket on the floor. As you can see, pour the rest of the gunpowder down there with the musket ball, with the paper, but we tend not to fire the paper because it can actually cause injury. Withdraw rammer. They will then take out their ramrod, ram down cartridge, ram everything nice and tight down the bottom of the barrel. Withdraw rammer. Now you might think that's a bit silly, but you need to be told to do that because sometimes an inexperienced soldier might fire his ramrod, which might hit a Frenchman with any luck, but he can't load his gun again. Shoulder, arms. They're now loaded and ready to fire, so I'm going to walk over here out of the way. It might be they don't like me and aim towards me. So we're going to fire a volley, so any small children, just be aware you might want to cover your ears, because shooting at the wall makes it even louder, which is quite nice. Okay. Squad, make ready. We'll bring the guns up, and the rifles up. Present. Fire. Let's roll Frenchman. Fire. Now, that was just a few muskets going up. Hello. Can you imagine if there was 300, 400, 500 muskets going up all at once? The men are now reloading in their own time. They do it as fast as they can. The men were trained to load 4 times a minute, which was every 15 seconds, which is very difficult to do actually. In battle conditions, they could probably manage 3 times a minute, which was still faster than the French, fortunately, which is why, one of the reasons why we kept defeating them. Shoulder arms. We're now going to show you a little bit of light infantry tactics. Now, the men are going to spread out. You can imagine there was 300 of them. They'd cover a large area. They'd usually go about